So how to get started with the event? Just like Elder Scrolls Online always, it's going into the Crown Store, and then you can start the event right here. You get this thing, it's going to give you a quest, and you're going to go to your faction-specific headquarters, and you're going to do a little intro quest, and then it'll unlock. Okay, so big thing here with the latest events for the Elder Scrolls Online. Essentially, you can run through any dungeon, specifically normal, and get another curation drop. Why is this relevant? Let's go to an item set that I want to get a hold of here for Graven Deeps. This set, Grave Inevitability, I'm looking for the staff, mainly a lightning staff or a fire staff, because it gives major force. I want to use this on an Oaken Soul build. I think it's going to be very, very good. So with the curation system, what happens when you run a dungeon specifically, it looks at the loot table of what you don't have, and then prioritizes what you don't have, and gives you that drop. So typically what happens is you fill up your body pieces very quickly because your body pieces are very easy to get. You get them on the initial bosses and you run that over and over. So then it moves on to jewelry typically, and then weapons last. You can also get weapons from the treasure chest. So what ends up happening is something like this is you're sitting in this loot table here for this gear set, and then if I'm trying to get one specific item, it's gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. It has all these possibilities, right? Random is random. But with this new Undaunted event, you can run, you get a little thing at the end, this Undaunted Plunder, and it gives you an extra drop. Okay, just got done with that random normal dungeon. Then we got a Burning Spellweave Axe, which I have not collected, and then the Undaunted Box City of Ash. This has the chance to give you a bunch of random stuff, but also something else not in your collections. So I got 2 curation drops for City of Ash with Ember Shield, and we're gonna automatically binds it for you right here. So we go to sets, and we go to dungeons, City of Ash, already making massive progress. You can actually close out those last remaining ones. So getting that double curation drop is normal. Veteran, you would run Veteran just for the Monster Helm. So if you're not interested in the Monster Helm specifically, the normal route is really, really fast because you're just trying to hurry to get to the end to get that drop, reset the dungeon in instance, and keep on doing it again until you get the specific item, weapon, jewelry, or whatever you want. Amazing! Much, much faster to run through these. So let's run through some of these gear sets of what I think you should get and why, and prioritize whether you're a PvE or PvPer. Okay, so Arx Cranium. Arx Cranium up first, Medusas. This used to be meta. All it does is give minor force and a bunch of crit. Saves you a little bit of bar space on PvE builds. There's better options like Order's Wrath. Still a fine one to get a hold of, and that comes from Arx Cranium. City of Ash, Burning Spellweave, a very strong set PvE and PvP, specifically for a Dragon Knight when you're applying the burning status effect, when you're using flame damage abilities, I should say. The benefit of this is it gives a burning status effect as well on top of it, so it feeds in your sustain loop. Fantastic. You can also get this from City of Ash 1 or 2. It's really simple to run through City of Ash 1 and blow through it and collect this. Next up, Crypt of Hearts. Some good ones in Crypt of Hearts. Ebony used to be meta tank set. People still run it. The 3 red orbs around. Crypt of Hearts 1 is the best way to get a hold of this. Increases max health. Not as relevant anymore, but still really good. Leviathan, believe it or not, this is kind of the Mother Sorrow. So it's a medium armor set. Mother Sorrow version for stamina users. Just gives you a ton of critical chance. Now, it's not Overland, it's a dungeon set, but very good to collect if you just want something on your body, 5-piece, you're a beginner, and you just want to run a normal dungeon. Ooh, Durox. Okay, this is a really good set. This set, people sleep on. It comes from Salin's Web. Durox Bane. When you take damage, you can apply major defile, reducing healing. PvP tanking, everyone's very, very tanky. So that major defile was a very, very good way to stop people from just popping up to full health. Still not that good of a major buff because it's only 16%, but it can help out. Persine, some people used to run this on a trials. The 3 green orbs, not that good. But Durox is worth collecting. Oh yeah, one of my favorite sets in the game, actually. Overwhelming Surge coming from Tempest Island. Base game, very easy. It's great playing in range. One of my favorite all-time magic sets. Most people run the Trial Sunspire to get False Gods. You don't need to do that. You can get Overwhelming Surge, and if you're playing in melee, it carries your sustain. False God is something you're going to want to step up to, but as a beginner magic player, Overwhelming Surge, fantastic set. Base game, Tempest Island. Another good set here is kind of niche anymore, but it's Sanctuary. It's a PvP healer set, and this comes from Banished Cells 1 or 2. Increase healing received by 10% for basically 12 people around you. The downside of it is only 10 meters. So it used to be a larger radius, and really it only affects you or a couple different people. So typically you're not standing on top of each other and just bursting people up, but it's something worth to collect if you're trying to be a PvP healer. And then good old Worm Cult coming from Vaults of Madness, one of the best dungeons in the game. This gets magic recovery for 12 people. Base game, and it's 28 meters. So that's useful. A lot of tanks and/or healers used to or currently still run this in trials because the recovery is so strong in a 5-piece. So Worm Cult, getting the weapons has been a nightmare for me. As you see, I still don't have it. Definitely worth collecting. So this was all the dungeons in the base game. Now I'm going to move on to DLC. There's a gazillion of them, so I'm going to try to pick 1 or 2 out and talk about it. Drake's Rush, this is a really good PvE tank set. If you're getting Major Heroism, I run this on dungeons on my Dragonite because Major Hero stacks with Minor. You can blow through ultimates, survivability, or add damage. Kinroz here is a good Parse DPS set. So if you can maintain light attacks, it gives you Major Berserk. A lot of people will tell you to use this. When you use it in combat, if you don't maintain the stacks, it's not that good. But just keep in mind, Kinroz is something you want to collect, especially the daggers. Now would be the time to work on it. So next up is Bloodroot Forge. Flame Blossom, this is kind of a light armor gank set, believe it or not. That's working pretty good in PvP. If you like the big burst, it's on the ground, so it's not that good. It's kind of a noticeable, but it does a lot of flame damage and also applies a burning status effect. So if you like the ganker, Magic Nightblade, something worth collecting. Oh god, Castle Thorn is up next. Crimson Twilight used to be a meta PvP tank set, not anymore. One of my favorite sets for Stam Sork actually is Unleashed Hair. This one's fantastic. So what it does is bleed damage, AoE over 10 seconds, and applies the hemorrhage status effect. You combine this with the Cultural Overload using a Streak on a Sork or a Gap Closer on any other class. Hits pretty hard, but that status effect reduces HP by 10%. Must-have PvP set to collect. I finally got the bow on my Stam Sork. I'm done with that dungeon. Coral Airy is up next. So one set I would work on collecting here PvP-wise is Griffin's Reprisal. Look at that tooltip unbuffed. 26,000 bleed damage. The thing about this is it's kind of a goofy set where you can activate your own synergy. It has a long cooldown, but if it lands on the target, it will do a massive amount of damage, and it scales off of Harmony. A niche PvP set, but if you build for it, it's fantastic. Gossamer is one of my favorite PvP healer sets. It gives Major Evasion for 1 second, reducing incoming AoE damage. You need a build that has a lot of heals over time. On my Warden, I put this on my body and my jewelry too, so it's activated at all times and gives a lot of survivability to me and my group. But you need a class or a build that has a lot of healing over time. Moving along to Depths of Malator. Actually, I don't use any of these sets, but one that all of you bow gankers love to use is Scavenging Demise. This thing objectively does hit pretty hard. You can't avoid it pretty easily, but the bow gankers, Scavenging Demise, Depths of Malator, if you're getting the bow, you're gonna have a great day because it is a hard-hitting gank set. Folk Retold. Well, they used to be my old favorite set. Iron's Blood gives major and minor protection. Now that's not that applicable. I still used it, but there's a snare on top of it. Don't see really that much use for this. Pillars of Nirn, one of the best PvE DPS sets as of making this video. It's a proc set. It's very easy to activate this. It's just when you deal damage. 10-second duration and a 10-second dot. So jewelry front bar, pretty much everybody is running this because unlike Kinroz, you do not have to babysit anything. Moving on to Fang's Lair. Calorians, this is a gank set. It was nerfed recently. It's probably still worth obtaining, but you can switch to either Red Mountain or Flames Blossom and do just fine, and or Scavenging Demise. Next up is Frostbolt, and we have Togvin's Warband. So remember when I talked about Kinroz, Togvin's is pretty easy to maintain stacks because it's any critical damage. It can happen every half second. You need 10 stacks though, but if you have a bunch of damage over time effects, you get the 10 stacks and you get minor force. So what happens with this is it's easier to maintain. You typically front bar this and it saves you a barb trap. It keeps higher uptime on your barb trap and gives you a lot of critical. So still a very good PvE set that you can run as a DPS build. Grave and Deep, we already talked about. We already talked about Grave and Deep, but the main one I want to get out of here is Grave Inevitability because of Major Force. Oak and Soul got changed, so it no longer has Major Force. You pair Grave Inevitability with Kinra's, and you get Major Berserk and Major Force, and Oak and Soul now gives you Minor Force and Minor Berserk, adding a lot of damage, so Oak and Soul is not dead. Grave Inevitability, pick it up. Ice Reach. So this Heat Tease or High Tease, or Hot Heated Hot Potato, Hot Tomato. This used to be a meta PvP healer set. People aren't running it much anymore, but just keep in mind, might come back into the fold. Titanborn is very good. The lower the health you get, the more pen and weapon and spell damage you have. And I think this works in no proc PvP. So this comes from Ice Reach, one of the least favorite dungeons in the game, but if you're planning on doing Raven's Watch or no CP, no proc campaign, this can be a heavy hitter, actually. If you're building a high HP build, this is something you want to get because the lower your HP gets, the nastier your combo gets. Titanborn. Next up, Imperial City Prison. My favorite dungeon in the entirety of the Elder Scrolls Online. Leech and Plate. Incredible survivability tank set. Heals you like an absolute jackhammer. Scathing Mage, the light armor set, gives you an enormous amount of spell damage for direct damage attacks. People don't use this anymore, but this used to be a meta set when Maw of Lorcaj was a thing for years. 486. 5-second duration with a 5-second cooldown. So if you're just light attack weaving with direct damage, you can maintain really high uptime plus that 486 weapon and spell damage. It's not a major or minor buff, so it stacks with others. This has fallen out of favor, but it's a fantastic, especially on a Magic Nightblade. And then good old Sheer Venom. Hate to say it, but Sheer Venom is a toxic Stam Sork build combined with Way of Fire PvP set. Toxic bow Sork builds out there. And in fact, this is what I used to give Emperor the first time on my Stam Sork Whirling Blades build. Not to brag. Layer of Marsalok. So Azura's Blight, people have told me, is a pretty strong PvP set. I personally have not played it, but Layer of Marsalok is super long, super annoying. A lot of people want to do it to get the Zen Dagger here and use a Magic Dragonite. And it's a really strong Trials PvE DPS amp that people love you to run. More support build-ish, worth collecting because people hate Layer of Marsalok. Moving on to Moon Hunter's Keep. Savage Werewolf used to be a meta Stam Sork PvP DPS set. Not that good anymore. These other sets I have really no use for them. I don't run them. Okay, Moongrave Fane. Drozakar. This used to be the set to run on a Stamina Warden. That got nerfed recently, stacking off balance, so it's not nearly as good as it had been. Hollow Fang Thirst. A good entry-level back bar set for a healer. So Resource Sustain, you can use Stone Talkers with their trial set, or you can use this starting out. It is a DLC dungeon, but it does a minor vitality and gives a bunch of Resource Sustain, and it's great because you can proc it on your front or back bar, switch, and get back to work on some other arena weapon. Red Petal Bastion, really nothing of note in here. There's a heavy attack set, Thunder's Caller. I've heard does really good in PvE and PvP. I don't use a whole lot of heavy attack builds, but from what I've been told, this one is really, really good. Runes of Mazatoon. Amber Plasm is a staple and standard. Great Resource Sustain set. It was kind of replaced by Wretched Vitality, which is a craftable set, but the thing about Amber Plasm is it works on no proc CP. So it's a great thing to collect and either put on your body or jewelry and weapons. And then if you're a medium armor build, you got resources across the board. Scale Caller Peak is up next, and the main set people run this for over and over and over is Jorbol's Guidance. The PvE meta for healers right now, and has been for probably years, is RO Jorvals. So Roaring Opportunist with this and getting a lot of big buffs. Specifically, I think it's Major Slayer. Very hard to play that build. I'm not very good at it because it requires constant heavy attacking. But you want to get Jorvals, get it unlocked if you're planning on being a meta PvE healer. Shipwright's Regret. To be honest with you, the only set I've used frequently is this Turning Tides. It gives major vulnerability. This used to be, or currently is, one of the best tanking sets. A lot of people are using Crimson Oath, which we haven't gone over yet. But Turning Tide gives a bash. Next bash gives a major vulnerability. PvE, it's good. I've seen some PvPers use it on bash necros, actually. Definitely worth collecting if you want to do a bash build or PvE tank. Stone Garden. Now, these are sets, as you can tell, my sticker book is pretty empty because I don't run a whole lot of Stone Garden, but this Arrakis or Krakis or whatever it's called, you get a ton of ultimate when you drink a potion, and for you and your group members. This is kind of a PvP one. I think people cheese this and running trials as well as just slotting it, taking a potion, just building up ultimate in between fights. Elemental Catalyst. This is one of the strongest trials PvE DPS sets to amplify damage. Elemental Catalyst. Very complex, but you're going to want to collect it if you have the aspiration to do these trials later on in the game. The Cauldron. Dagon's Dominion from the Cauldron. This gives weapon and spell damage to your AoE abilities. There are some classes that use this, like a Warden, if they were going to use a Master's 2H on your front bar, putting this on your body and having every ability be AoE, this will hit like an absolute hammer. You just have to change out the skills a little bit. Consider this a PvP set, niche. The Dread Cellar. Best dungeon in the game. Currently, I love running this. Obviously, I've got it all. Crimson Oath, meta back bar tank set. So what it does is it debuffs the armor of in big AoE when you use a major or minor buff. Right now, a lot of builds are stamina. So they want to reduce armor at 18,200 is what mobs typically have in veteran dungeons. The closer you can get that being 0 but not going over, the more DPS your overall group will do. So if everyone's playing a stamina build, this is one of the best sets you can run as a tank. Rush of Agony, Sweaty Spaghetti PvP set. So you do a gap closer, it sucks everybody in. I personally think this needs a nerf because there's no counter to it. It's not like you can just, you know, it basically avoids almost any counter to it and sucks everybody in. So it's a very, very good bomber set that almost has no counter, and it comes in medium armor. Unhollow Grave. Draugr used to be the staple in dueling PvP set. Increase your damage by 311, but it reduces your healing taken by 10%. So that used to be able to stack up a bunch of effects, and you would just have so much damage per second that you could basically win every duel. That guy kind of nerfed pretty hard. Aegis Caller, I heard, is another good critical damage set. I haven't used it personally, nor have I used Draugr after the nerf. The White Gold Tower, Essence Thief, one of my favorite PvP sets in the game. It restores health, stamina. The downside of it is it basically shoots at a little green circle you have to go chase down and pick up. If you do, crazy survivability and 10% damage. That stacks on top of major and minor berserk as well. And then the next up is Spellpower Cure. One of the best PvE healer sets in the game because it's mobile and it gives major courage to you and your group. Well, gang, hope you got something out of this video. Get in there and start farming these sets. And if this was helpful, just make sure to hit that subscribe and hit that like. Come back to the channel or follow me on twitch.tv/Deltiasgaming. Also, check me out on Twitter. I post random food pics that no one cares about. Twitter, Deltiasgaming1 on Twitter. Till then, we'll see you next time.